Evening, and thank you for joining us for our annual meeting between the Board of Education and MCPS-MD. We're happy to be here with you tonight. These annual events serve an important role in the relationship between the board and MCAAP and MCBOA, keeping us connected and providing an intentional space for dialogue and fellowship. Since March 2020, we have operated in a new world, necessitating new understandings, new ways of operating, and new thinking. We've asked much of you, and these have been difficult times. I have no doubt that we will come through this wiser, stronger, and really tired. Please know the board appreciates the work you have done and are doing to ensure that our students continue to have access to instruction and supports. Our strength is our partnership and our joint commitment to our students and families. Our community now understands what we have always known, that our schools are central to the health of our community. Tonight, we will hear from our administrative and supervisory staff sharing with us a day in the life. We're looking forward to a robust, productive discussion. I would like to start by having board members introduce themselves, starting with our Vice President, Ms. Silvestri.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Dr. Daka.
Good evening. It's good to see you, even if it's just on screen.
Ms. Evans.
Hello, hello, hello. Happy to be here with you all once again.
Ms. Harris. I thought I saw her. She'll probably join us in a minute. Is Ms. Oluni on tonight? It's so many on the screen, I can't tell.
Yeah, I'm here, Ms. Wolf. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet and see many of you for the first time.
Thank you. Unfortunately, Interim Superintendent Dr. Monifa McKnight cannot join us tonight because she is in flight to a conference. We're delighted, though, that Jimmy DeAndrea, her Chief of Staff, is here, along with Dr. McKnight's leadership team. Jimmy, can I ask you to start an introduction of your staff here?
Thank you, Ms. Wolf, and thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here this evening. We have members of our senior leadership team here this evening, so I will just call their names and ask them to introduce themselves as I see them on the screen. So I'll just go in the order on the screen I see, starting with Dana Edwards.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dana Edwards. I'm the Chief of District-Wide Services and Support.
Damon.
Good evening, everybody. Damon Monteleone, Assistant Chief of Teaching, Learning, and Schools.
Pete.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pete Chavadini, the Associate Superintendent for Technology and Innovation.
Helen.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you. Helen Nixon, Chief Human Resources and Development.
Rob.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Riley, Associate Superintendent of Finance.
Darlene.
Good evening, Darlene Harris, Executive Director for the Chief of Staff.
Everett.
Good evening, everyone. Everett Davis, Acting Associate Superintendent for Student Family Support and Engagement.
Stephanie Williams.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Williams, General Counsel. Nice to be with you tonight.
Diane.
Hi, good evening. Diane Morris, Area Associate Superintendent. Nice to see you.
Stephanie Sharon.
Hi, Stephanie Sharon, Chief of Strategic Initiatives.
I think I got everyone, but if there's anyone I missed on the senior leadership team, please jump in now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I see also that Ms. Mandrowski has joined us. Rebecca, would you like to say hello? Well, I thought I saw her come in. Well, we'll come back. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to President Christine Handy of MCAAP and MCBOA. So Christine, would you like to take over?
Okay, yes. We'll do our introductions. I am Christine Handy, the president of MCAAP McBoa, and I'm going to call on our members to just briefly introduce themselves. And so I'll go with our vice president.
Good evening, everyone. Ann Dardarian, Vice President, MCAAP McBoa.
Our executive director.
Good evening, Jean Rosen, Executive Director, MCAAP McBoa.
Keisha.
Good evening, Keisha Addison. I represent Central Services.
James. Michael.
Hi, I'm Mike Bayowitz. I am principal of Cloverly and the elementary cabinet chair.
Julia. Cheryl.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Clark, principal at Rockwell Elementary School, and I serve as the secretary on the board of directors for MCAAP.
Jamila.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamila Denny. I'm the principal at Pinecrest Elementary School.
Patricia.
Everyone, my name is Patricia Donner. I'm the school business administrator at Gaithersburg High School, and I'm also the vice president of the McBoa chapter.
Keena.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kina Eliassi, Randolph Depot manager, and I'm also chair representative for BOA.
Genevieve.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Genevieve Floyd, Supervisor of Career and Post-Secondary Partnerships, and I serve as the MCAAP at-large Central Service Representative.
Ryan.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Forker, Principal of Lux Manor Elementary School and the Assistant Chair for the Elementary Chapter.
Cara.
Hello, everybody, and good evening. My name is Cara Grant. I am the Supervisor for Health, Physical Education, and Adaptive Physical Education, pre-K through 12, and I have the pleasure of serving Central Services as a representative.
Renee. Augustine.
Good evening. Oh, I'm here. Good evening. I'm Renee Johnson, the proud principal of Montgomery Blair High School, and I'm here as the high school principal representative.
Augustine.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Augustine Kang, assistant principal at Wood Middle School and the assistant principal representative.
Young Mi.
Good evening, everyone. Young Mi Kim, principal at Herbert Hoover Middle School, representing middle school principals.
Melanie.
Good evening. I'm Melanie Knight. I'm the assistant principal at Woodacres Elementary School, and I'm representing the elementary cabinet as their secretary and elected member to the board.
Irina.
Good evening, everyone. Irina LaGrange, principal of Tilden Middle School, assistant chair for the middle school chapter.
Joseph.
Joe Momanda, assistant principal at Wooten High School, and I'm the high school chapter representative.
Julie.
Good evening, Julie Morris. I'm a facilities manager in the Division of Design and Construction, and I represent a delegate from McBoa.
Randy.
Good evening, everyone. Randy Rumpf, pre-K-12 supervisor for fine arts and central services representative.
Marita.
Hi, everyone. Marita Sherburne. I'm the principal of Woodacres Elementary, and I am the treasurer for the board of directors for MCAAP.
Beth.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Beth Thomas, principal of Quince Orchard High School and the assistant chair for the high school chapter.
All right, thank you. Good evening, President Ms. Wolf, Vice President Ms. Silvestri, members of the Board of Education, members of the MCAAP McBoa Board of Directors, and members watching tonight. I am Dr. Christine Handy, President of MCAAP McBoa, the Administrators and Supervisors Association here in MCPS. Our members include school-based and central service leaders. We cover instructional leadership and operational leadership across MCPS. We are happy to have you join our board of directors this evening. Our members started the school year excited for the return to in-person teaching and learning 5 days per week. Tonight, we will share what many of our leaders are experiencing as we have transitioned to in-person instruction and challenges presented by the current staffing shortages, ongoing COVID issues, and the transition in leadership for our school district. So let's get started. Dear MCPS school community, for the school year 2021-22, we will return to school as normal. Students will attend in person during normal school hours for a normal 5 days per week. This is the message shared with our school community. While I am paraphrasing, the key word is normal. But this year has been anything but normal. The school district's vision is prosper. In addition to putting our students first, renewing relationships, and opening 5 days a week for in-person instruction, the S is for supporting staff to meet student needs. The final R stands for reestablishing the culture of respect. My comments to you today will focus on our members' perception and experiences in these two areas. MCAAP agrees that MCPS needs to reestablish, revisit, and promote practices that reflect a culture of respect. On a recent survey completed by more than 300 members of MCAAP and MCBOA, 61% disagreed that a culture of respect exists in MCPS. While the climate declined during the pandemic, there were hopes that it would improve this school year as we return to our new normal. 87% of our respondents indicated that they disagreed that the climate had improved since last year. As for supporting staff to meet students' needs, our members have had to spend an exorbitant amount of time contact tracing and planning for quarantine instruction. While we wholeheartedly agree that planning for quarantine instruction is our responsibility, contact tracing is not. This is a responsibility of the county's health department and should be taken off of our members' plates so that they can focus on instructional leadership. In fact, 57% disagreed that they have the necessary information needed to communicate with their community and answer questions related to COVID-19. It is simply not what they have been trained as educational leaders to do. 88% of our members indicated that contact tracing and quarantine instruction have impacted the instructional program. On any given day, members are unable to focus on instructional leadership due to contact tracing and other operational tasks. 93.5% of those responding to the survey indicated that COVID-related duties have impacted their ability to conduct informal and formal observations, thus missing the opportunities to support teachers where needed and to provide them with valuable feedback. In fact, when asked, what are the barriers to focusing on instructional leaders, members said, we are serving as mental health specialists, contact tracers, mask enforcers, TikTok police, and finding little time to be instructional leaders. Another said, I'm spending much of my time in the triage room, contact tracing, waiting for students to get picked up from school, finding coverage for classes without substitutes, and dealing with late buses and preparing for virtual quarantine instruction. Another stated, everything is about COVID. Sick students, teachers, and parents. We have students who are dealing with the loss of parents and family members, and we do not have enough substitutes. Contact tracing based on reports that someone is sick or has COVID, restructuring and planning student events such as homecoming, et cetera, and no clear answers on who to call for what in central office. Another stated, my reading specialist and staff development teacher are either managing the individual quarantine room or supporting school-wide testing. My principal and I are assisting the health tech, contact tracing, or on lunch duty or bus duty, and communicating with our community about COVID mitigation. One said, leading for instruction is not a priority due to staffing shortages. The number of staff needed to carry out the expectations for outdoor lunches, quarantine instruction, COVID testing, contact tracing, managing parent inquiries, supervising students who are waiting on their buses well after the teacher day ends. Distributing supper bags to students 2 hours after cafeteria personnel leave for the day without additional support for this task, and the list goes on. We asked our members what they wanted district leaders to know. One shared, anxiety and stress among school communities is high. More time and energy are required to put out fires as compared to a typical year. Another shared, elementary schools are understaffed compared to middle schools and high schools. Another commented, communication is slow to come to us. Staffing and subs are a huge issue. I am unclear on who to call for support. The reorganization is unclear. Another, being told to have balance and self-care is impossible when working 11-hour days plus time on the weekends. Another wanted you to know, I am being put in the position of serving as a public health official all day long. I am being held accountable, responsible, and look to make decisions and implement practices that are out of my areas of expertise. This is not fair or sustainable. We've been working hard and long hours since March 2020. I honestly do not think I can serve my community at this pace for much longer. MCPS should not make promises to the Board of Education that cannot truly be executed by our schools. One said, morale is worse than it has ever been. We must balance all things COVID, family notification, staff supports, quarantine scheduling, etc., all while trying to keep the morale of our school staff up so that they do not go off the deep end. We are trying our best to keep our heads above water while caring for our staff and communities' social and emotional well-being. Who is demonstrating any concern for our social and emotional well-being? One asks, does be well even apply to administrators? I am not sure how we are expected to keep up this pace and stay mentally and physically well. Another asks, why are we focusing on anything other than meeting students' academic needs? Another, trust in relationships matter. There is a time within MCPS where schools and central services staff felt valued. For the last several years, central services staff have been made to feel as if our work and our worth is not valued. Central services staff work hard, and like our school-based colleagues, our work is important. We should feel valued. Another, the day-to-day pivots and nonstop work from spring, summer, and now fall are draining and confusing. We cannot continue to function like this. We can only do so much, and the people must take priority. Otherwise, they will not be available for the students. One simply said, help please. This is really exhausting. Another asked, when the Board of Education comes up with ideas for our district to implement, can they please consider the impact on our leaders? Our schools are overburdened. Central services leaders are overwhelmed. We are asking for consideration of our work-life balance. Lastly, one summed it up. We need to know that you care about your people. We need to know that you care, not by words, but by actions. The leaders at MCPS are passionate about their work and what they contribute to MCPS to make us one of the best school districts in the nation. They care about students, their well-being, and their academic accomplishments. Our leaders are essential and a valuable resource for MCPS. We must do all that we can to retain, acknowledge their work and their worth, and celebrate our leaders. MCPS must develop a plan to address the human relations of leading a large school district. Where can we give our leaders a break, you ask? You can demand that the Department of Health and Human Services handle this medical crisis, COVID-19, and take contact tracing from the plates of educators so that they can focus on what they are trained to do, lead instruction in our schools and central services. Another way to show your employees that you understand the above and beyond work that they have been doing, the many hours that they have been working, the stress, the planning, the nonstop ask, would be to close during winter break, like Frederick County Public Schools, Howard County Public Schools, Prince George's County Public Schools, Baltimore County Public Schools, and other districts in the state of Maryland, allowing employees to take a break to rejuvenate and know that their employer cares about their well-being during this time when students are not impacted and are not in schools. This would be well received. This evening, we want to share a few more stories. It is difficult for you to walk in the shoes of leaders in our school district. Thus, this evening, we will share what a day at work looks and feels like for some of our members. We have leaders here to answer your questions as well. So we thank you for your time this evening, and we will move through our agenda. So first up, we have a day in the life of an MCPS school administrator. And we're going to start with our principal, elementary school principal, Mr. Mike Bayowitz, followed by Ms. Parkan from the middle school, and then we will hear from Jean Rosen.
Thank you.
Christine, before we start, can I just make one little observation? We've been joined by Ms. Mandrowski, and she just wanted everyone to know that she's on and she's listening to your concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mike.
Good evening, board members. My name is Mike Bayowitz, and I have the honor of serving as principal of Cloverly Elementary School, as well as vice president and cabinet chair of the elementary chapter of MCAAP. Tonight, I'll be sharing some perspective on a day in the life of an elementary school administrator in fall of 2021. Allow me to walk you through a typical Monday for my assistant principal and I. At the start of school, we greet the students outside with a warm smile a fist bump, and a good morning. And although our students are masked, we can still see their broad smiles reflecting their genuine happiness to be back in school. But before arrival, a lot has already happened. We have 2 teachers out. One is out sick and one is watching her child who is in quarantine. No substitutes have picked up the jobs, so we have assigned 2 of our paraeducators to cover those classes. Other paraeducators have been designated to help students who have been assigned critical staffing due to serious health or behavioral issues. These critical staffing positions remain vacant despite being advertised for months. Due to the lack of substitutes and paraeducators, there aren't enough staff left to cover lunch and recess. So before school has even started, it appears my assistant principal and I will help provide lunch and recess supervision, a period spanning about 3 hours to allow for smaller groups of students to eat outdoors. So now, with coverage managed and students safely in the building, it's time for school to start. Shortly after the bell rings, my assistant principal assumes her role as school testing coordinator. Our staff development teacher and reading specialists are supporting testing, collaborative planning, and providing live instruction to students in quarantine. Our counselor is supporting a handful of students who are still battling separation anxiety, intensified by the pandemic, which has resulted in the first full school year for many of our kindergarten, first, and second grade students. Therefore, I am now working with our outside vendors to coordinate COVID screenings for about 150 students until lunchtime. While helping at lunch and recess, the email accumulates and the phone calls start to back up. I learned that a student has gone to the triage room with a sore throat. We're now on alert that there is a possibility of the need to contact trace if the child tests positive. This would entail interviewing staff and students to determine close contacts, looking at seating charts, communicating with the health room, communicating with MCPS, calling parents to pick up students, drafting letters to students involved, staff, community, and then arranging for students to be able to access quarantine instruction. This will add a minimum of 2 to 3 hours to my day. Then an incident on the playground needs to be addressed by an administrator. So the juggling continues. I need to help lunch and recess, follow up on the incident, and possibly contact trace all at the same time, all with immediate attention needed. It's at recess. As recess comes to an end, it's nearly 2 o'clock, and neither my assistant principal or I have eaten lunch. I spend the next hour scarfing down a bite or 2 of lunch, answering the most pressing emails, and trying to catch my breath. But it's already nearly time for dismissal. My hopes of visiting classrooms for even a few minutes are dashed. Dismissal begins at 3:25. By 3:15, the carpool line is backed up well onto the road. Drivers passing by are honking, frustrated by the traffic. Our parents of typical bus riders have quickly learned that they can't count on a reliable time when the buses will arrive home, so they're now picking up kids instead. At 10 minutes to 4, we still have 3 buses left. We called those students down to the all-purpose room to wait for their buses so we can relieve the classroom teachers. My assistant principal and I then dismissed the teachers on bus duty because their duty day has ended at 4 o'clock. At 4:15, the last bus comes, and I sign on to my 4 p.m. Zoom meeting 15 minutes late to attend a meeting with central office administrators. This finishes around 5:15. It's now 5:15, time for a deep breath. But just as I do that, a teacher comes by and asks if she has a minute. She says she tried to see me during the day, but she couldn't find me. And as she closes the door, the tears start to stream. Needless to say, she too is under a great deal of stress. After we wrap up, I decide it's time to head home. The email and phone calls will have to come after dinner. I'm exhausted, and unfortunately, the list of key things instructional leaders are supposed to do that we didn't do is long. We were unable to visit classrooms, attend teacher team and planning meetings, or analyze recent testing data. The day was long, stressful, and is far from over. In my 27 years with MCPS, this fall has been the most challenging I've experienced. We're working hard to provide a warm, inviting environment for students, as well as to try and maintain a positive climate. That is our job, and I take it very seriously. And at the same time, I often hear leaders say, you have to take care of yourself. And while I agree with that sentiment, I wonder how I can really do this and do right by my students and staff at the same time. I hear from colleagues on a daily basis the same 4 words: this is not sustainable. I know of administrators who, for the first time in their careers, are contemplating resigning or retiring even much earlier than expected. Board members, we know that you're not able to address all of the issues I've described. However, it's imperative to understand that the labor shortages will only get worse if wages, conditions, and communication do not improve. Administrators cannot sustain the current pace. Our hope is that you will work closely with MCPS leadership to ensure that administrators' voices are heard, that expectations are realistic and achievable, and to ensure aggressive recruitment of new employees while rewarding current ones with improved compensation and benefits. We appreciate your audience tonight and recognize the enormous challenges that the Board of Education faces during these difficult times. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board of Ed. My name is Vicki Parkan, and I am the principal at Neelsville Middle School, representing our middle school administrators by providing a glimpse of a day in our life. On most days, I arrive at school around 7 a.m. My first task is to review staff that is called out and ensure that we have coverage for everyone. On this particular day, we have over a dozen staff out, including main office secretary, building service staff, paraeducators, and classroom teachers, with only one sub having picked up a job. I review the coverage that has been assigned to ensure we're well covered. Around 7:30, I spend time walking the building, greeting staff, and making sure everything looks the way we need it to prior to students' arrival. At 7:45, the bell rings and students enter. I greet them. Good morning, buenos dias, welcome. I carry a box of masks as students often arrive without one. On this day, a new student arrives, speaks no English, and needs help getting a schedule. I introduce myself, ask a few questions, and walk him to our counseling office where our Spanish-speaking secretary continues to help him acclimate to our school. I walk around the building, greeting students, reminding them to pull their masks up. When the warning bell rings at 8:10, I check on the front door, and I notice a parent waiting. I recognize them as I'd met with their child the previous day regarding a broken iPad, and they asked to meet to hear more about the events of yesterday. I take a few minutes to explain the situation with the broken iPad. It was thrown by their daughter in a fit of anger. We struggle with communication as English is not their native language, but I take the time to ensure we're understanding each other. The 5 minutes turn to 20. I suggest the child meet with her counselor and walk her across the hall to explain the situation to the counselor. On the way there, I get a call from the health tech about a situation she needs to share with me. It's 8:30 and I'm headed to the health room. The health tech shares that 2 students have come in, not feeling well, feverish, but can't reach a parent to come pick them up. I suggest she call the counseling secretary who can speak Spanish and may have better luck communicating with someone. Both students speak minimal English and look afraid. I have to take a few minutes to help calm them down, explain that we need to reach someone and that they're going to be fine. As I head back to my office, a teacher stops me to share her concerns regarding COVID. Again, issues related to her health and restates her desire to teach virtually. It's almost 9 a.m. and I remember to follow up with a student whose parent had approached me the previous day regarding a bullying situation. I meet with the student, get more information, and promise to investigate. I let security know, give them a time, place, and general description of the students. I have a meeting scheduled with our staff development teacher to discuss our targeted school improvement TSI plan, which we need to work on to submit by November 1st, along with our school improvement plan. We spend about an hour reviewing what we have already developed and planning a follow-up session with our instructional leadership team later in the week, dividing up the work between our academic team and our well-being team, making sure it's aligned with our SIP and creating an engaging process for all. It's now 10 a.m. and I receive a call from our counseling secretary that a parent has called to let us know that her daughter, who's was in our school through yesterday, was tested for COVID prior to a trip back to El Salvador and has tested positive. Contact tracing, here we go. I make a list of the students' classes for the previous day. walk around the building, talking with teachers, often interrupting the instructional program to identify who the students had sat with. Despite requests for teachers to create seating charts in Synergy, which they've done, we found that day to day there are changes and not all are recorded on Synergy, thus the need to check with each teacher individually. Once I have a list, we need to locate each student, check their vaccination status, and contact their families when being asked to quarantine. I let the 2 APs at the building know that they'll need to supervise all the lunches. One of them reminds me that she's finishing up with MCAAP testing, so she's not available. That leaves one administrator to manage 4 lunches. We started with 3 at the beginning of the year, but due to overcrowding and concerns related to COVID, we created a 4th lunch period. We have also opened multiple lunch locations beyond the cafeteria, outside, in the hallways, in a couple of classrooms, lots of areas to supervise with limited personnel to manage it all, thus the need to have as many administrators available as possible. To add to our lack of resources, one of our 2 security assistants is out on maternity leave. So at this point, it's honestly beyond all hands on deck. I work with the admin secretary to find the students that I need to meet with related to the contact tracing. In between, security identifies the student involved in the bullying incident from earlier in the day. I end up spending all afternoon dealing with the contact tracing, talking to students, mostly 6th graders, unvaccinated, explaining our quarantine protocol. Not easy for our students to understand, despite our best intentions, calling parents, explaining in some cases that their child, who had already been quarantined recently, will now have to quarantine for an additional 10 days. Explaining our process, Canvas, assignments, Zoom, grades, trying to be supportive, listening to their frustration, and feeling frustrated and exhausted. And we still have dismissal to attend to, with hundreds of parents that line up daily in our parking lot, into the street, managing dozens of buses and trying to ensure everyone's safety. It's overwhelming. And we still have after school and Excel Beyond the Bell, which runs until 5:30 or 6 to manage. I have loved my career in education for over 30 years as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal for the last 16 years, but never have I experienced a year such as this one. I want to do what is best for our students, for our staff, but there just aren't enough hours in the day. Most importantly, I miss being in classrooms, spending time with students, watching them learn and providing feedback to our amazing teachers. But again, there are just not enough hours in the day when we are managing all that is currently on our plates. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jean Rosen, and I am the Executive Director of MCAAP. I will share with you what our testing coordinators are experiencing. Testing is always an enormous and laborious task every year. Each test requires close attention to details and the logistics of testing to ensure that the test is implemented properly so that the data is valid. It requires the review of accommodations for students with IEPs, students with 504s, and our students who are or were part of our ESOL programs. State tests require far more intense organization of testing groups, testing tickets, seal codes, and training for staff. The staff members who lead testing coordination are assistant principals who understand the importance of the assessments and want to do the job well. This year has made it almost impossible and is causing stress, exhaustion, and feelings of overwhelm. To make sure everyone is aware, this year our MAP testing window opened on September 7th, the 2nd week of school, which also happened to be a 3-day week. The end of the window was October 8th, which, keep in mind, would typically be when we would start our MAP testing. A high school test coordinator shared, hours upon hours have been spent reviewing the criteria for multiple tests with timelines that seem completely unreasonable. My time has been spent on planning, creating multiple drafts of schedules, attending trainings just a few weeks before the test administration, and struggling to learn the nuances of different testing platforms. For this test, use Pearson, and for that test, Cognia. Once the plan is agreed upon, There is the redundancy of meetings with the administrative team, every resource teacher, presenting information weekly to the instructional leadership team and at monthly staff meetings. Communication includes parent newsletters, connect ads, putting information on the website, and sending multiple emails. The school testing coordinator spends many days or weeks creating sessions for each test because you must provide proctors and locations for all students and allocate for those with specific accommodations. For the MISA, I created 84 sessions and added over 2,000 students. This arduous task is even more difficult because the platforms do not communicate with each other successfully. Thus, you must compare rosters in Pearson and Cognia with what's in Synergy and then with the district's database. Then you must prepare testing materials, which requires late nights because nothing can be done during the day due to other responsibilities to include addressing student behaviors, informal and formal observations, COVID contact tracing, disciplinary issues, department meetings, ILT, admin team, CSST, and IEP meetings, lunch duties, bus duties, and being on your post during the change of each class. For the past 5 weeks, I've worked 7 days a week, at least 12 to 14 hours per day. I cannot sleep well because of planning anxieties of what I may have missed, or did I get every student? Just thinking about the task to prepare is arduous and requires a lot of thought processing to execute all the details of the testing plan accurately. Exhaustion has taken over my entire body like a California wildfire, and I cannot take another test. But wait, PSAT, SAT day is right around the corner, and we still do not have the materials from College Board. A middle school testing coordinator shared, on Saturday morning, prior to our first day of MCAAP testing, my co-testing coordinator and I were fixing our student groups because we kept discovering errors in accommodations for students. The result was my colleague, another assistant principal, and I working all day Saturday reviewing student accommodations and solidifying student groups. Fortunately for me, my spouse and parents took the kids and gave me the time to work. The groupings were finally finished around 8 p.m. After putting my kids to bed, I was back at it, going student by student and adding them to specific testing sessions. The process is tedious. There is no way to upload names or IDs from our Excel sheets. Each student must be clicked and added one by one. Even if you use the same groupings for your math and ELA, the work must be done twice because there is no easy way to duplicate your groups. On Sunday, we returned to the school to finish entering all our students and to begin printing our testing tickets, organizing our folders, and testing materials. It is important to preface that MCAAP testing prep is coming off the heels of MAP testing and WIDA model testing, not to mention simply the start of school. At 8 p.m. on this Sunday, we finished up and joined our families at home. We arrived to work early on test day to get testing ready to go. Everything seemed to be running smoothly. When students began testing, we ran into several challenges that needed to be resolved. It was a long few days. Now we are makeup testing each morning and afternoon. We are tired. This is exhausting and we are not able to do it all. We know we won't get the time back. We know there is no additional compensation, but it is important for the Board of Education to know how difficult it has been these first 2 months of school with all the testing that has been mandated with zero flexibility or grace. With all this testing, the school district needs to consider hiring full-time testing coordinators in school. It is a full-time job. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wolf, at this time, we have some time for Q&A. And then we'll move on to the 2 more.
Okay, does anybody have any questions at this time? I can't, Ms. Evans.
Yes, could Miss, I'm trying to think, I think it was Jean. Jean, could you repeat, I think I heard correctly. So the testing coordinators have to enter all the names manually into the system. We don't have a way to upload that. Is that what you said?
So I will defer to one of our board members to please respond to that question.
Okay, sure. Anybody?
Hi, this is Augustine Kang, assistant principal at Wood Middle School. And yeah, there isn't an easy way to upload all the names or anything like that. Each name has to be individually clicked at the very least. Every session has to be created for each test and recreated again for the math test and then recreated again for the MISA test. And the names have to be entered on their own. And that's just for middle school.
And so because it's humans doing this, there's a possibility that you can accidentally miss a name. Testing day could come and that student could actually not be able to take the test because their name is not captured. Is that correct? Could that happen?
It could happen, but those we catch them, and we have processes in place, and most schools have been doing testing for a while, so there's a way to catch students who may not have a testing ticket on that very morning. But in most cases, we have our ways to check and balance and make sure that we have everything done. It's just the process is very tedious.
Yes.
I'm Joe Mamana. I'm sorry, Renee. I'm Joe Mamana.
Go ahead, Joe. Renee. I'll go after you. Joe. Go.
I was just going to say the high school is pretty much the same. But to be honest, when some of those students, you're dealing with so many students that they might, Ms. Evans, they might miss that test because they have to have an answer sheet. That's when we would set them up for the makeup day. So, I mean, unfortunately, that's your fall safe is that makeup day, but we could have hundreds of kids in there. For example, just for MISA, I set up an exam for 1,900 students. I've been the testing coordinator here for 8 years. I've never tested more than 1,000 students, 1,900 students in the building. I used every room in this building and every teacher was used. And about 350 some students with accommodations. So and that's just for one test. So it just gives you an idea. And just as Augustine said, the systems, and I think Jean had mentioned it, the systems do not work very closely with each other. They don't help you out. There's 4 systems, Cognia, Pearson, obviously Synergy, and MCPS system. And you got to look on all 4 of them. And you are correct. There is, it's human error. When you're dealing with so many numbers for people to make sure that you've got all the students in the right spot and have the accommodations.
Is this a new problem or has this been going on for a couple of years now?
I'd say the last couple of years, I think my MCPS, some of that was a little bit easier, but with the onset of Synergy, it's been a little bit harder for us. I think also the systems that we're using for testing, Pearson, Cognition, they had the HSA was a different system. And again, when you come up with a new system, and I know part of that is the state of Maryland coming out with that system, that's new training. We got to learn a whole new system. It's not something that, you can learn, in a couple hours. It takes time.
Yeah, I will ask. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add that, hi, this is Jamila from the elementary school's perspective. You heard a lot from middle and high school. The same stands true for elementary because we have 2 administrators, sometimes even 1. And principals usually we're not supposed to be testing coordinators. We do try to jump in and help with the logistics. However, you will see in the elementary school side that our staff development teachers, our reading specialists, along with the assistant principal are doing a lot of this work alone. And so I just wanted to add that in too, because I know you heard a lot from the secondary, but the same stands true for elementary.
Now, this is Marita from Wood Acres, and I would say we're testing 6 grade levels and sometimes 7 if we have pre-K. So there's that as well. We may not, we don't have as many students as some of the middle and the high school do at each of those, but each one of those requires some kind of supervision as well as a bazillion accommodations and somebody to watch the kids who are ESOL who don't qualify to take certain things. And so we're always staff strapped when it comes to these things. So, the windows are wider, which does help in some cases, but sometimes it's overwhelming.
Does anyone else on the board have any questions for Carla?
Yes, I think my question was about the comment of not knowing who to contact in central office. Could you say a little bit more about that, and maybe so that I could understand? And I know Jimmy's here to absorb the feedback.
I'll jump in. I think a lot of that it has to do with we have a lot of changes and people are just not clear on who to call for what, because we have so many new people in new positions.
Okay, thank you.
Am I seeing any other hands from our board members?
Yes, Ms. Harris.
Go ahead, Ms. Harris.
Yes, hi. I just want to circle back with a follow-up question about the testing. It sounds like some of the issues are related to, I think Mr. Momenon was saying, one of the testing types that is mandated system from the state, so not in our control. But I see Mr. Sivanini here, and I'm just wondering if on an operational side, are there any fixes for some of the technical administrative pieces of this that are coming down the pike with the new data system? And I mean, it does sound like in 2021, maybe we could have a more efficient system than multiple spreadsheets where staff have to spend whole days cutting and pasting names into different lists.
I'm going to jump in. Pete, let me just jump in here a minute. Lynn, let us first hear from the people from MCAAP and MCBOA. And what we'll do is we'll absorb what we're hearing, and we will go and talk to our central staff later, because they have a long agenda and they want to get out all of their testimony, and they've asked that we delay talking to each other, so to speak, okay? So we'll come back and we will carry that over. Thanks. I appreciate your understanding. Does anyone else have any questions for the members of MCAAP and MCBOA? Not at this time. Okay, Christine, do you want to go ahead?
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to a day in the life of essential services and MCBOA administrator, starting with Ann, followed by Ms. Donner.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the Board of Education. My name is Ann Dardarian. I'm the Vice President of MCAAP MCBOA, and I will be sharing a day in the life of Central Office Administrators. We are so grateful to the members who shared their perspectives. The perception that Central Office Administrators work effortlessly from 9 to 5 is a misnomer. While we are truly appreciative of being able to lead district initiatives, establish collegiality amongst our teams, and effectively support schools with services, data, fiscal guidance, standards-aligned curriculum, and professional development, there exists misunderstanding pertaining to the timeline and demands affiliated with the aforementioned. My average day consists of 5 to 8 meetings, varying in length anywhere from 30 to 180 minutes. All meetings generate action items which require their own time. For example, a budget review, document creation, training, design, scheduling, data analysis, additional meeting preparation, and the list goes on. Most often, the aforementioned actions get completed after hours or on weekends. I may have 3 or 4 days each week that have at least 2 or more sets of overlapping meetings, and it becomes difficult to ensure follow-through on the obligation my team has to support schools or to complete other work obligations. The average number of visits for classroom planning, instructional student support per week is 18 to 26. This is with a team comprised of 4 members. The average week includes direct service to schools, preparation and or delivery of training, building training or school-based materials, analyzing data to drive instruction, creating reports, overlapping meetings. It could be at the department level, unit level, team level, level alike, cross office, working with vendors, developing budget proposals, managing grant funds, managing program licenses and contracts, coordinating community partnership projects, serving on work groups, and responding to parent and/or community inquiries. I'm checking email at all times of the day, night, and/or weekends, even during leading meetings or professional development. Recently, a colleague received 2 action items while leading their own team meeting. Both were same-day asks to present specific information. One presentation required cross-office collaboration. As a result, members were forced to skip already scheduled commitments. For every hour of professional learning delivered, the design and planning requires 4 to 6 hours. Stakeholders do not realize how labor-intensive the work is with an understaffed central office. As an example, October has already included training for several school leadership teams, summer training makeups for teachers, training for all school-based leaders, which requires multiple sessions for all schools, training for new school-based leaders, training for school-based leaders serving focus area students and underserved populations. Very often tasks are assigned with little to no notice and with difficult to achieve project due dates. For example, to complete a report, some of my colleagues were asked to review, analyze, and provide feedback at 10:23 a.m. to be prepared to discuss via Zoom at 2:15 p.m. and have final edits by 3 p.m. A request for a state report was asked on a Thursday for a Friday turnaround. With such a short notice, the team used the divide and conquer method. While this should have been a summer task, the team invested long hours and a draft was submitted within 24 hours. Sometimes we may be asked to prepare for high visibility presentations, which requires one's presence at multiple meetings in a row. This ask requires 3-hour rehearsals, and then sometimes we have to skip or cancel school commitments, training, etc. The burnout and mental health needs of central office MCAAP members cannot be ignored. More and more is asked of short-staffed teams. There are never enough hours in a day to do the work. While feeling belittled by statements and perceptions that we are not doing enough, we know we are drowning. It should be noted that our challenging working conditions have caused some members to leave MCPS to go to other districts for work or return to school-based leadership. Many colleagues do not feel psychologically safe to share challenges related to their workload or their work environment. Central office administrators work long hours into the night and on weekends, volunteer in schools, and rarely receive public gratitude for their hard work. However, they continue to be exemplary for the students and families of this district. Thank you.
Board of Education members. My name is Patricia Donner, and I'm the Vice President of the Business and Operations Administrators Chapter of MCAAP McBoa. I would like to share with you the voices of our Department of Transportation depot managers. In Department of Transportation, we all have been challenged during the past 18 months of the COVID-19 pandemic. There are 6 depots in Montgomery County Public Schools, and each depot varies in size. As the days of the pandemic turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, the depot managers stepped up to the front line and did everything they could to continue to provide excellent service to students and families. Whether delivering meals and homework packets or learning an abundance of new safety and training practices in a swiftly evolving environment, our department gave and continues to give 100%. We are experiencing driver shortages. And due to the unknown of how many people will leave their positions because of the vaccine mandate, we are facing losing more staff than ever before. This year, many neighboring school districts canceled bus services for some students because of their staffing shortages. But we, the 6 depot managers, worked round the clock to adjust and consolidate routes. Numerous routes had to be carried out by doubling and tripling back to the route starting point. As a depot manager, we have no work-life balance. Our jobs are 24/7. All depots operate 6 days a week, and some depots operate 7 days a week. Buses run on Saturdays for field trips and Saturday school, and on Sunday, school buses travel to the school in Baltimore for the deaf and the blind. My day starts at 4 a.m. I check the emails that were received overnight. I report to the depot between 5:15 and 5:30 a.m. to ensure the morning operations go smoothly. Some of my buses depart as early as 5 a.m. to pick up the out-of-area temp or homeless students. Due to the staffing shortage, I either must dispatch until 9:30 or 10 a.m., drive the bus, or ride as an attendant. At 9:30, employees come to see me to discuss issues, including their work hours, payroll questions, leave requests, and other matters. I supervise close to 350 employees, and I have an open door policy. I'm constantly busy taking care of their needs. If there is an accident or an employee needs to be transported for drug testing, then I must take the employee to the testing myself, since my SEIU supervisory staff concludes their day at 10 a.m. In between, I answer emails from parents, address school complaints, address route delays for arrival and departures, pull bus videos requested by principals for COVID contact tracing, CPS calls, fights on the buses, or other inappropriate behavior. To pull a video and download it is a time-consuming process. There is no time for a break or lunch. Starting at 1:30 to 1:45, afternoon bus departure begins, and I must make sure that my dispatcher was able to cover every route and that no bus is sitting on the lot. If we are extremely short-staffed, then I must either dispatch the afternoon portion, drive, or serve as an attendant on a bus. On a good day, I get to leave the depot at 4 p.m., and on an extremely short-staffed day, I don't leave until 6 p.m. after starting my workday at 4 a.m. Numerous times after working 12-hour days, I have been called back to the depot because the security alarms are going off at the maintenance building, which has nothing to do with me. But when they would call someone from maintenance, they would tell them to call me because I'm the depot manager. Or the depot gate would not open, and I would have to come to open the gate. This just doesn't happen during the work week, but also sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays. Additionally, as depot managers, we are required to cover the front office of the Department of Transportation headquarters 1 day a week. As depot managers, we must remain vigilant. Emergencies are not predictable and could happen any second at any depot. Recently, I tried to leave at 3 p.m. so I could get to see my child's high school SGA float project, which was displayed for parents between 3:30 and 5 p.m. While on the road, I got a call from dispatch reporting inappropriate behavior on a bus. I did not have the staff available to assist since everyone still on duty was driving. I was already halfway to my child's school, but I turned around to go assist the driver. By the time I got to my child's school, it was almost 5:30 p.m., so I missed the activity. Another colleague recently arrived at work at 5:15 a.m. and went through the necessary things to make sure all the students were transported and that everything upcoming for the day had been addressed. They left and took a family member to a doctor's appointment, took them back home, returned to the depot, printed all the necessary notices, and left a confidential envelope for the dispatcher. My colleague left again at 5 p.m. to go home and then received a call about a kindergarten student who had not arrived home. So my colleague began the process to locate the student who, in the end, had been picked up by a sibling without parental knowledge. As depot managers, we are 6 of the hardest working men and women. We have dedicated ourselves to MCPS in the position that we hold. Morale in our department is low. Everyone is working very long hours. We have a significant employee shortage. Labor shortages will continue to worsen if wages, working conditions, and communication does not improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. We are now open to questions.
Shepard, did you have your hand up?
I did. I'm gonna let everybody finish, but I just wanted to just say thank you for all the things that we don't even know that you're doing, that you're saying here tonight on the Zoom. I just thought it was important just to say that. It's a lot. And so I know words don't mean anything, but right now I mean it. So thank you. And I'm taking notes. So I appreciate everybody being vulnerable in this space to say what your day is. And that's my puppy. She agrees with me. So I'll go on mute.
Are there any other questions at this time? I think, Dr. Daka, you're on mute.
I'm not exactly, I have it's not exactly a question, but I just wanted to make an observation that even before COVID, testing coordinators had a really hard job because they usually had to do their own job in that as well. Many years ago, retirees were hired to take over the positions that the testing coordinators ordinarily had for 2 weeks so that they could do all the things they had to do. And it's certainly a lot more now, especially since COVID happened. So I'm hoping we can look at that. Or I know that Dr. Dixon is really working very hard on hiring people in all categories. And I'm sure she's already met with your staff, but it's a very difficult time for all of us. And we really appreciate all the things you're saying because all the details are really important to us.
Anyone else?
Can I respond to Dr. Doctor very quickly? This is Augie Kang once again from Wood Middle School. She's absolutely right. It's always been one of the toughest jobs. I feel like just the logistical pieces and the accountability involved. I think the biggest difference that every school has felt is that it's at the beginning of the year, and we don't know the students yet. We don't know their accommodations well yet. We don't know who needs to be in what groups, who uses which accommodations best. We haven't prepped the kids. They don't really know. We haven't taught them how to take the test, whether it's MCAAP. It's been 1.5 years now. And so it's been a lot to try to make all that happen at the beginning of the year, whereas typically it's sort of spread out. WIDA happens in the winter, MISA happens in March, English and math happen in the spring, and you've got time between to sort of set and prep and get things going, and then all things testing at the end of the year. So that's the biggest difference between this year and last, not to mention like the students in quarantine and makeup testing and all the additional variables.
Shebra.
Yeah, I was going to say, and so the board can talk about it and maybe have President Wolf take back some of what we're hearing to the state or write a letter, because the state did, when they canceled the testing, they changed it to the fall, if I'm not mistaken, correct? And so I think that what we need to do is to share with them what it's like to have changed it to this time. I mean, that's just a thought, but I think a lot of good points have been brought forward that we can share, even in addition to, I think Mr. Lamanna had talked about just the different testing companies that we're working with, Pearson, and how when you change, there comes, you have to be trained, and all that is a lot depending on what time that comes. And so I just think that if we can somehow get some notes from Dr. Handy, I'm taking notes, but I know there's things that I left out. I know that Mr. Bayowitz said some things about what he does with contact tracing. I was trying to write, but you said a whole bunch of stuff. It was a lot. Right? That I think is too much. And so we have raised the issue of concern about our educators are not health professionals and that we need help from the county government. I know Dr. McKnight is working to get that taken care of. They have shortages, staff shortages as well, but just know that that is a concern of ours. And we do want you to do your job. And it's like you can't, from what I heard, you don't even have time to do it. And when you're trying to do it is after hours when you should be spending time with your family. I hate that people are not taking lunch. My goodness. I mean, it's a lot. Right. But I appreciate that you've said that you've done all that needs to be done to support our students. So I do hear that, but there should
I see your hand, Carla. Wait, I just want to say, I'm sorry, Shebra, were you finished?
I was going on and on, but I think.
No, I'm sorry. But I just want to say, I agree with you. It's sort of overwhelming to sit here and to listen to this. And Dr. Handy and I and the other association presidents, we have talked about the need for us to return to our core business, which is educating students. And we are trying to work together to see how we can address this issue with the county, because we do understand the concern. We hear the concern, And we know that we need to get back to our primary business. Carla, I see your hand.
No, I just wanted to ask Helen Nixon, so I know she's on the call, if since we have all these people here, is there any good news that you can share in terms of hiring either the contact tracers or more bus drivers or more subs? Anything that these folks may not be privy to at the moment?
So a couple things. We do meet weekly in ADC, so we do provide updates weekly to our association presidents, and I do have touch bases with Christine, with Jennifer Martin, and with Pia. So we do keep in touch and communicate as often as possible, and we don't wait for meetings. We text, we call, and that kind of thing. So that's very important. In terms of the substitutes, we have reinstated the substitutes that had been transitioned out of the system for earnings. So they have been reinstated, and it doesn't mean that all 700 are ready to work tomorrow. It just means that they're reinstated, because I just want to remind everyone the reason that they were taken out of the rotation in the beginning was because they weren't taking positions. So we've reinstated them so that in the event that they can take jobs, we're encouraging them to do so. We do robocalls to our subs. We do email blasts to our subs, encouraging them to take positions, certainly. The staffing, the recruiters are conducting pop-up shops. In the last 2 weeks, they have hired 75 new subs, and that's good because the newly hired subs are the ones who will likely be more proactive about taking the positions in the first place, so that's good. The 20 contact tracers have been hired, so those TPT positions that HR was given to hire have been hired. They were required to do the Johns Hopkins training for contact tracing, and they were going to also be doing some internal contact tracing training with Ms. Dublinsky. And in terms of the hiring of continued permanent staff, we continue to do the recruiting that we do. We do have a line on our December grads. We are hoping that we can open contract and get a line on the December grads coming. On November 9th, we are doing a presentation to the school board, and we will share with the community, with the board, with colleagues, the strategic recruiting plan and some of the dashboards that have been created in certification and staffing to track the folks that we are meeting and interviewing, and new hires or December grads, also making sure that if they want to start subbing, that they can start subbing. We've gotten communications out in the weekly transmittal that Ms. Rubin put to all principals. We know, for example, that many of our principal colleagues on the call have put in their parent newsletters an all call for subs. So we've gotten parents who've become subs for us. So slow and heavy lift. I know we're only really concerned with what's happening in Montgomery County, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that our neighboring counties are also struggling with these very same issues, and all kind of competing for the same sub pool. In terms of bus drivers, Jeannie Dawson can correct me if this number is wrong, but we have hired 19 new bus drivers since the start of the year. So those are my silver linings for this evening. The team and the recruiting continues to work very hard. I know it's not easy. I commend our principal colleagues on the call who are creative and obviously identifying how to approach the staffing coverages in their respective schools. I do share a daily sub report with our associate superintendents and with Ms. Rubin to see how many unfilled positions there are and which schools are having the hardest time doing filling. So we're looking at that trend data and seeing if there are ways that we can create a cadre of cluster subs to have always available for those clusters that are most frequently running into the problem of more consistent, what I would call absences. So all of those things are in the hopper, in the mix, so to speak. I invite anyone on the call at any time to call, email, to share their perspectives, to share their stories, and know that we are doing all that we can to stand ready to support schools. We truly are, and the recruiters are a small but mighty team, and they are out on the road just about every day.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to remind you that we're trying to get through this agenda, so we're going to try to keep our questions for the members of MCAAP and MCBOA, and we will take our feedback on when we have a board meeting, actually Tuesday. We look forward to a presentation. Christine?
Yes, we have closing remarks from Ms. Ann Dardarian.
Okay.
Okay, but we would like to thank you again for being with us tonight. And also, as Christine, Jean, and myself and our board, we were preparing for this meeting. One of the things that we did want to offer to our board members this evening was our condolences, of course, on the loss of your colleague, Ms. Pat O'Neill. Pat was a tremendous force in MCPS. And also, as we understand it from our history, instrumental in the creation of MCBOA. And so we remember Pat this evening, and we know that if she were here, she would be engaging probably in a very robust discussion around so many of these issues that we've been talking about tonight. So we do want to extend our condolences to all of you as her colleagues, and to share that, her memory will be dear to all of us. When we thought about planning our meeting today, one of the things that we really wanted to do was we wanted to share with you the heart of our members in terms of the work that they're doing in schools and offices, but yet with the realistic and the reality view of what it takes in order to do it. And I think that's what we were hoping to do today. It would be easy just to say a litany of what's working, what's not working. But I think what we really wanted to do was to personalize people's experiences. It's one thing to know things on one level, but it's another thing to walk in someone's shoes. And what we tried to do tonight was to provide that perspective. And we look forward to future dialogue, additional questions that may come up. We're more than happy to respond and to answer to those. We represent over 760 members in MCPS, and these are leaders who are highly educated, very dedicated, hardworking, and caring individuals. And I think that, we all know and appreciate the work that goes on in schools every day. There's so many positives that happen in central office every day. There's great work that's being done, but their work comes always with a price. And one of those things that we're finding is a loss of work-life balance. And that's something that we're really hoping to achieve. And as Christine mentioned earlier this evening, we have made a proposal to MCPS in a way that we think could show some acknowledgement and some relief of that workload around winter break. And we know that we don't bargain directly with you, but we're hoping that perhaps you will direct the bargaining team to come back and talk with us a little bit more about some options. We do look forward to continuing to partner with you and with MCPS leadership to ensure that the valuable contributions of our MCPS leaders continue to be recognized and valued. We thank you so much for being here this evening, for taking the time after a long day. We thank our board members and all those who prepared their comments this evening. We really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much.
We appreciate the passion and commitment you've shown by being here tonight and sharing your stories with us. At this time, I am going to go around and give my board members a minute to say something, because we have heard a lot. And I have to say, it just breaks my heart that Patricia missed her child's performance, or whatever it was. She should have been there. And that story just really broke my heart. So I'm going to start with our Vice President, Ms. Silvestri.
No, thank you for Thank you for the format of the meeting. I agree 100% that it's important for us to understand what it is like to be in your shoes on a typical day. And I feel exhausted for you just hearing the relentless day after day workload that you're undergoing. So I appreciate it. And I hope that we can remedy this as soon as possible, because you are human beings and you can only take so much. Thank you for everything you do for us.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the personal information that you gave us. It's just, there's no question how much you're doing. And when we think about principals in general, I don't think people understand how many things principals have always had to do. And now they've had to do all of these extra things, the tracing and contacting parents and doing the health part. We thank you for everything that you've done. And we certainly are taking all of this very seriously. And we'll be talking with Dr. McKnight and others about what we can do.
Ms. Mandrowski?
Yeah, thank you. I think, I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues in terms of my appreciation for your candor. It is heartbreaking to know everything that you all are going through. I think for me, the thing that I appreciate the most is the honesty and the straightforwardness. We can't fix what we don't know. We are doing everything we can, but we need to do more and we need to work together. And this is definitely a partnership. And I really appreciate the time that everybody took to be away from their families and away from, everything, and the time they took to put together their statements. I wish we weren't here, but I do think that the honest feedback is kind of one of the most important things that we can get, because we're in this together. So thank you for your time.
Ms. Evans?
Sure, thank you. So I heard a common theme around wages, communication, and working conditions and expectations that are achievable. So I want us to work towards that. And I really did. I wrote down some of the percentages that were called out earlier around the climate survey. So those were very disturbing. About 61% disagreed on the culture of respect, and 83% disagreed that there's been any improvement since last year. So I really want us to make a change, turn these numbers around, and get our working conditions back to something that's attainable, that will give you all the balance that I heard that you just can't get trying to make do under these conditions that we're in as a result of COVID-19. So we will take these back and make sure we work to try to do something to alleviate some of the pressures that you're feeling. So those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Ms. Harris?
Yes, I just want to echo everything that my colleagues have said. I really deeply appreciate the invaluable insights that you all have been sharing, because the first step in actually substantively and meaningfully and pragmatically fixing issues is understanding them. And can't do that without the kinds of insights that you're sharing. And I, like some of my colleagues, have taken pages of notes, and I have many questions to follow up, and I look forward to doing that and pursuing all of these points with our central office and other staff, so we can figure out the next steps that make sense and honor all the hard work that all of our staff are doing.
Ms. O'Looney?
Again, thank you all so much for all the work that you've been doing for our schools this year and last and every year. I've spent a lot of times visiting schools this year, and every time I do that, I have to pass through the main office. So I've seen very small glimpses of the wide range of work and the quantity of work that you've had to do this year. But just hearing your stories today has given a lot more insight into that. So I really thank you for being so candid and honest. And just like my colleagues said, I really hope that we can continue to work towards some solutions this year.
Thank you. Christine, do you have any final remarks?
I just want to say thank you so much for your time and for, giving us this time each year. And, it has been tough. It's a tough year. And we just wanted to share with you the realities of what our members are dealing with. And so when I come to the board to a meeting to testify, I share with you about the working conditions, but tonight, you got to hear it from the voices of our members. And so thank you so much for your time, and thank you for this opportunity to share. And once again, thank you to all of our board members that are here tonight. And I also want to thank the MCPS staff that are here. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, I thank you all for coming, because it's very important that we have these unfiltered conversations. And this is our opportunity to hear, because I believe one of our board members, I believe it was Ms. Harris, said, we can't fix what we don't know. And so this is very important conversation. And I look forward to our continued working together. And like my colleagues, I've taken quite a few notes, and I do have some questions, and I've heard some very good ideas come out of this tonight. So thank you. And we look forward to seeing you in the future.
All right. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night.